Come here. Hey, ladies. Come here. I got a crying baby here. This is the third cat you guys have managed to see. This is Oreo. He won't turn around, but he is a tuxedo. Come here. Come here, baby. All right. He's my crier. But, there he is. There you are. Okay, so, today is August 10th, and, it is 5 days post my second IVF retrieval. Later on today, or maybe tomorrow morning, I will find out how many of my 10 still running embryos have made it to blastocyst, and how many will be getting sent off for PGS testing. I don't know. I feel like I spent so much money on this cycle. What if all 10 made it to blast? Oh my gosh. Do you know what that means for how much I will have to pay in addition? So I paid $2,500 for the cryopreservation. Well, I paid $2,500 for the biopsy. That's no matter how many make it to blast, and another $1,000 for the freezing process. So that's all paid for already. That was part of the over $10,000 plus that I had to pay before my retrieval. So let's say all 10 make it to blast and they get biopsied. Well, it's $150 for the first 8 for testing. So that is $300 times 4, so that's already $1,200. And then the other 2 is an additional $100 each, so that would be $1,400 plus an additional $150 for shipping. So that's $1,550 that I would have to pay to test all 10. One might say, let's hope only a few come out. But at this point, having done 2 retrievals, not necessarily back-to-back, because there was about like a month and a half in between them. Retrievals are hard, you know. They're hard on your body. The stemming process was a lot harder this time around, with things being sensitive and extra painful. And it's just stressful in general. So, I don't want to have to go through another retrieval if I don't have to. So, I will pay the max amount to test all 10, if it means I get a good number back and I can have my baby and a sibling without having to do another retrieval. So, that's something that I'm going for. Look at this guy. Look at him. He is just, yes, look at you. Yeah, sure, kisses. Oh, thank you. So, he thinks he's my boyfriend. I mean, I've been single way too long that the cat thinks he's my boyfriend. Thank you, Oreo. Thank you. I like kisses. Thank you for the kisses. He kisses me all the time. Anyway, so that's that. Now, considering that I went into the cycle thinking that I was going to do a retrieval, and my retrieval would have been around today. I was given August 10th as a tentative transfer date. Now, what I thought was really special about today being my transfer date is that exactly 9 months from today would be May 10th. And May 10th is my sister Gwen's birthday. So it just would have been so great. But I made a decision to do another retrieval. I could have done a transfer of the 1 embryo that I have now. I thought about doing that as well. When I went in for my first, not my first ultrasound, I would say my last follicle scan during the stem cycle, I had every intention of talking to the RE about planning for the frozen embryo transfer today. I wish it would have been today, but I realized that there's still so much to do around the house, like the deep cleaning that I've been wanting to do. I haven't touched the upstairs yet. My backyard, I haven't touched my backyard yet. And considering all I went through in the last week of my stem process, and then, starting to take the progesterone and oil shots, which is just more hormone, more progesterone. I just, I just felt like it was too much, just too much to do all at once. And quite frankly, I'm actually really glad because this time around, after the retrieval, I didn't recover as quickly. I mean, last time, by day 3, I was out hanging out at Babies R Us. Okay. And, you know, shopping, up and walking around and doing everything, and I was feeling great. I didn't lift anything, but still. So this time around, I guess I wasn't home. I wasn't really walking around as much, although I did get up and, kind of walk back and forth around the hotel room, but not really pacing. And I mostly slept and worked, slept and worked, slept and worked. And then when I got home, it was more sleep and work, a little TV watching, sleep and work. I haven't worked out all weekend. I have been eating like I don't have an insulin resistance and just not focused on eating well and all that great stuff. But you know, I just felt like it was too much, and I didn't want to do it. But Simply Tanika asked me to do a video on expected delivery dates when you do IVF. So let's get into that, because one might think that because my transfer is August 10th, that my delivery date would be somewhere around my sister's birthday. The answer to that is somewhat true. It would be around my sister's birthday, but it would be before. In order for the baby to be born on my sister's birthday, the baby would have to be almost 2 weeks late. Okay? So, even though it's exactly 9 months, but that's just 9 calendar months, not necessarily 40 weeks, but just 9 months as we usually count months. Hi, Ninja. Hi. Sorry, it's the other cat here. I don't know. I think he's sick or something. He wasn't interested in food this morning. Hi, come here, kitty. Oh, no, you're not interested? Okay. So, if I had a transfer today, my baby's due date would be April 28th. How does that work? Okay, let's first talk about how due dates are calculated in natural pregnancy. So, basically, gestational age is determined from the first day of your last period. First day? Yes, from the first day of your last period. Which means by the time you ovulate, your baby or your egg has already aged 2 weeks. Okay? And then when you get pregnant, like let's say you ovulate and then 2 weeks later you find out that you're pregnant, your baby already has a gestational age of 4 weeks. Follow me? Okay. So, if your baby already, sorry, I'm holding the camera. I don't have it on my little stand. So if your baby already has an age of 4 weeks already, then it's just 36 more weeks from that point that you actually, that you're carrying the baby. So that's how your due dates are determined. Now, that is also, now for women who don't know when their last period was, they use a guideline of when they think your last period was. And that guideline goes with the average of a 14 days of a woman ovulating on cycle day 14. So, of course, not every woman ovulates on cycle day 14. I know I was ovulating like cycle day 18, 19. A girlfriend of mine introduced me to this TED Talk, which I'm going to link here, called Show Me the Data. And this woman is basically explaining how she got pregnant and her doctors had determined when her due date was, and she started to get over her due date. And what the doctors wanted to do was induce her. But she had been tracking her cycles for over a year, and she knew that she had longer cycles. And longer cycles, since your luteal phase is typically 14 days, she knew that they estimated her due date early. And the doctors were not feeling it. Like, to the point where, I mean, I'll let you watch the video. It's a really, really good TED Talk. It's got little funny bits and everything. But it really stresses the importance of knowing your data, right? So if you don't know anything about your cycle, how long your cycles are, when you typically ovulate, this is that and the other, and you're not doing like IVF, then you really want to make sure that you get an understanding of what that is before you get pregnant, because you could have an early estimated due date and they could be inducing your baby early. And she was very adamant about not letting them induce her early. And based on her data, her baby came on time. But that went against the doctor's data. So they have these due date charts. You give them a day that your cycle started, and then, I mean, she wasn't trying to get pregnant. She just happened to get pregnant, but she knew when her last cycle day was. So they guessed her baby's gestational age based on when her cycle started, and that chart assumes that you ovulate on cycle day 14. But she knew she did not ovulate on cycle day 14, and she actually ovulates later than that. But they just weren't buying it. So it's a really, really good TED Talk. Check it out. So anyway, so let's talk about estimated due dates with IVF. So with IVF, they harvest your eggs. Of course, you don't actually ovulate, but basically the day they take your eggs will be considered your ovulation day. Okay? Now, you could have gone 2 weeks prior, 10 days prior. Just depends on how quickly you stem. But as far as due dates, your due date with an IVF cycle is based on when the embryo is transferred back. So, and how old the embryo is when that's transferred back. So if your embryo was a 3-day embryo, that embryo would already have a gestational age of 2 weeks and 3 days. Okay? If your embryo is a 5-day embryo, the gestational age would be 2 weeks and 5 days. So basically, you can do the math and count up to 40 weeks from that date, and get your estimated due date. So I used a calculator at first to determine what my estimated due date was if I had transferred a 5-day embryo today, and it came out as April 28th. And I looked up to see exactly how they determine gestational age, and said, okay, my embryo would have a gestational age of 2 weeks and 5 days at that point. And I counted up to 37 weeks and 2 days, and it was exactly April 28th. So there you have it. If you have a 3-day embryo transfer, then your embryo is already 2 weeks and 3 days old. If you have a 5-day, it is already 2 weeks and 5 days old. And you don't need a calculator, but that's essentially how the calculators work. Basically, 40 weeks go 40 weeks from the day of your transfer, subtract 2 weeks, and however many days your embryo is old, and you'll have your estimated due date for IVF. Now, I guess for IUIs, they would calculate it just like any natural pregnancy based on the first day of your cycle. So there you have it. Thanks, Tanika, for the suggestion. I will come back if I get the call later on this afternoon. I will come back. If I don't get the call this afternoon and I get it tomorrow, then you'll see a video tomorrow. But just in case I don't get a call today, sticky baby dust to all those TTC. Bye.